Chalmers for the big shot. Oh, he does it again. Mario Chalmers.
Mario Bernard Chalmers, born May 17, 1986. In basketball, there's shots you'd never forget. The ones that pierce your heart as much as they lift another man into folklore. For me, Mario Chalmers will always represent one of those moments. April 7, 2008, San Antonio, Texas. My Memphis Tigers, led by a young Derrick Rose, had one hand on a national championship. The game was practically wrapped up. Then came the collapse. Missed free throws, nervous possessions, a tightening noose of pressure on the brightest stage in college basketball. And just when it seemed Memphis would survive, Chalmers rose into frame, released a cold-blooded three with 2.1 seconds left, and crushed an entire city's dream. That shot forced overtime, Kansas stormed back to win, and Chalmers was immortalized as Super Mario. It was one of the most heartbreaking nights I've ever experienced as a fan, and one of the most defining moments in college hoops history. But sometimes, immortality can be both a gift and a curse. What do you do when your legacy is written at 22 years old before you've even stepped foot in the league? Chalmers had climbed the mountain before most players even get their shoes tied. From then on, every step in his career was measured against that one shining moment. He had the confidence to match it, never shy about taking shots, never backing down from stars who were technically his superiors. But as the years rolled on, it became clear Mario Chalmers would never be that kind of star himself. He landed in Miami right around the time the franchise assembled one of the most infamous super teams in NBA history: LeBron James, Dwyane Wade, and Chris Bosh. And Chalmers, the point guard, asked to deliver the ball, space the floor, and occasionally step into a clutch three when defenses broke down. He did his job, and he did it well. 2 championships, 9 seasons, a resume full of moments that would make 90% of players proud. But he was never the headline, never the franchise cornerstone, never the star. Always remembered for one shot at Kansas, rarely for anything after. Mario Chalmers had the swagger of a superstar, the resume of a champion, and the memory of a single shot that made him famous forever. And yet, even with all that, his growth as a basketball name somehow stalled. What happened? Let's talk about it. It's your boy JC Stunted Growth. Let's get it, man. Take a minute to like, subscribe, and comment on who I should do next. Mario Chalmers is a 6'2" point guard from Anchorage, Alaska. A 3-time Alaska Player of the Year at Bartlett High School, he led the Golden Bears to back-to-back Class 4A state championships in 2002 and 2003, and finished his prep career as the state's all-time scoring leader. His play earned him an invitation to the 2005 McDonald's All-American Game, where he poured in 20 points to lead the West team in scoring. From there, he joined Kansas, where his reputation as a clutch guard only grew. In 2008, Chalmers hit one of the most memorable shots in NCAA history, a game-tying three with just seconds left in the national championship game against Memphis. The Jayhawks went on to win in overtime, and Chalmers was named the Final Four's most outstanding player. That moment vaulted his draft stock, and later that summer, he was selected 34th overall in the 2008 NBA draft. Stunt number 1, Overshadowed by Stars. When Mario Chalmers entered the league in 2008, he wasn't handed the keys the way most NCAA heroes expect. Drafted 34th overall, he joined a Miami franchise soon to be defined not by him, but by the 3 mega stars that arrived in 2010. For the better part of his prime years, Chalmers stood on the floor with LeBron James, Dwyane Wade, and Chris Bosh, a supporting actor cast into the background of one of the NBA's loudest dynasties. The irony was that Chalmers wasn't a passive presence. He started most nights, defended hard, and carried the confidence of a player who believed he could run a team. His 25-point outburst in Game 4 of the 2012 finals proved he was capable of delivering on the biggest stages. Yet, no matter how much he produced, the narrative never changed. The cameras cut to LeBron or Wade, or the headlines read Big 3, and Chalmers was reduced to a footnote. He became infamous in another way, being the teammate most often barked at by Miami's stars. Clips of LeBron and Wade chewing him out live on just as long as his clutch shots, creating a perception that he was the Heat's weakest link. In reality, he was playing the role demanded of him: space the floor, hit timely shots, defend with effort, and stay out the way when the stars took over. What stunted Chalmers' growth wasn't a lack of talent or mentality, it was being in an environment where his ceiling was capped by circumstance. For many, being a two-time NBA champion starter would be the peak of success, but for someone who once wore the crown of Super Mario, that role ensured his name would never escape the shadows of greater ones. Stunt number 2, the injury that took his second gear. Memphis was supposed to be Mario Chalmers' second act. Away from the orbit of Miami's stars, he looked more free, picking pockets, pushing pace, and running pick and rolls with a steadiness that said he could stare an offense. The film hinted at a guard rebuilding his value in real time. Then came the wrong kind of pop. A push in transition, a hand to the back of the ankle, and the floor swallowing momentum in a single step. Achilles. The tear didn't just end a season, it ended any argument that he might still climb. Within days, Memphis waived him, and the grind began. The slow, private marathon of an Achilles rehab. You relearn how to move, then how to trust, and finally how to compete without the threat you used to carry. He made it back the next year, but something essential stayed behind in the training room. Bursts became angles, angles became floaters. The slivers he once turned into layups now became bump and pivot sequences, ending in kickouts for someone else. Before the injury, he played like a guard writing a new chapter. After it, he played like a veteran solving possessions with craft, useful but no longer able to bend the game when the window was small. And that's where a career can quietly stall, not because a player can't play, but because he can't impose himself when the margin for error shrinks. From there, his path bent overseas: Italy, Greece, places with high leverage minutes for a competitor who knew how to win. He did win because Mario Chalmers shows up when the stakes are loud, but that window for an NBA second life closed the night that tendon snapped. Memphis had finally offered a reintroduction. The injury cut the microphone mid-sentence, and the league never asked him to finish the thought. Stunt number 3, a legacy that drifted. After Memphis, Mario Chalmers' career followed a path familiar to players who once brushed greatness but never seized it fully. The NBA was moving on, rosters filling with younger guards, while his body and reputation could no longer guarantee a roster spot. He landed in Italy with Virtus Bologna, where he hoisted a FIBA Champions League trophy in 2019, and then in Greece, where AEK Athens claimed the Greek Cup in 2020. The wins were real, the stage was not. Overseas, he was respected, even celebrated, but the spotlight no longer reached him, and the conversations that followed his name started to drift elsewhere. His name returned briefly in 2021 when Miami signed him to a hardship contract during the league's COVID season, or when he was called out by former rapper turned sports show host Cameron for a fake 1v1. Fans leaned in, hoping for a flashback. Instead, he never touched the floor in his return and was waived 10 days later. The moment said everything. Even the team that once leaned on his crutch DNA no longer had a role to offer. From there, he became a journeyman figure, bouncing between G League and short-term deals abroad, respected more for what he had done than what he still could do. A professional survivor learning new leagues, new systems, and new expectations. And yet, Chalmers never stopped competing. In 2025, he resurfaced in the Big Three, hitting a shot that echoed his old Kansas bravado, this time lifting Miami 305 to a championship and $1 million. It was proof that his instincts and confidence never left him, but by then, the larger game had moved on. His clutch gene was intact, but his place in the sports memory had slipped away, fading into nostalgia and conversations rather than consistent recognition or lasting stardom. Another name you remember for moments, not eras. All in all, Mario Chalmers lived a basketball life that many would trade in a heartbeat, yet one that still leaves you wondering what more could have been. He was born into moments larger than himself, hitting the shot that crushed Memphis and immortalized as Super Mario before he even played a professional minute. He started for one of the NBA's most scrutinized dynasties, delivered in clutch final moments, and left the league with 2 rings to his name. Still, the shine never quite stuck. Chalmers carried himself with the confidence of a star, but circumstance, injury, and the shadow of greater names muted his individual profile. His career stretched overseas, through G League halls, and back into the spotlight with the Big Three, where he reminded everyone of his clutch DNA. The truth is, Mario Chalmers' growth was never about proving he could play. It was about whether the game would ever allow him to be remembered as more. Salute, much respect. It's your boy JC Stunted Growth. I'm out.